Welcome to the February 5th Milford Planning and Zoning Board meeting. If people would please stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. We have roll call from my left.
Good evening, I'm Brian Collegian.
Nancy Austin.
John Grant.
Carl S. Moore.
Scott Marlowe.
Peggy Kearney.
We also have Jim Cater, we'd like to welcome to his first meeting from the 2nd District. We also have Meg and David, staff. And our first order of business is 4446 River Street, 824 approval for the sale by the City of Milford of the property known as 44-46 River Street. David, would you explain this to us, please?
The City of Milford owns that property and has entered into agreement to sell it to a developer. And as a reminder to the board, what an 8-24 is, it's a requirement by state statute that when the city is going to sell or lease a piece of property, it has to come to this board for approval. If this board gives it an approval, then it moves on to the Board of Aldermen, where a vote on the actual sale would take place. And if this board approves it, it's a simple majority of the Board of Aldermen. If this board denies the sale, then the Board of Aldermen would need a 2/3 majority to approve it.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, I'd hear a motion.
I
Mr.
make
Grant?
a motion to approve the 8-24 approval for 44-46 River Street for the sale of the property.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Scott? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next order of business. Yeah, if you're all leaving, we'll just give you a minute to go. Mr. Sadi, you missed roll call. So if you would announce yourself.
Certainly, Robert Sadi. Thank you.
Thank you. Next order of business is 31 and 33 Pearl Street, petition of Patrick Tarantino for coastal area management review on map 22, block 459, lot 27 and 27A, of which Patrick Tarantino is the owner. Is there anyone here to speak to this matter? Mr. Salkus.
Well, what I can tell you is that you have the staff report in front of you. The applicant is proposing to remove the existing single-family house that was built on the property line of 2 conforming lots and construct zoning compliant structures located in the A11 flood zone. Both houses, which are being proposed, are zoning compliant with a height of 35 feet from average grade. Prior to issuing a building permit, architectural drawings shall be revised to be consistent with the approved site plans. Any changes to site conditions proposed after the initial inland wetlands review will require a new inland wetlands administrative review prior to a zoning permit being issued.
Any questions or comments from the board? I find it unusual. I think it's the first time in 6 years that I've had an application where no one's come up to ask us to approve it. So I guess we're not bound by that. But if there's anybody that would prefer to wait on this and ask the applicant to come in front of the board. I don't know, what's your instinct, Mr. Solkis?
That's up to you. I mean, if you have questions about the plans or issues, whatever you have, and you want to hear from the applicant, then by all means, you can, put off voting on it. But if you're comfortable with the plans and what was reported, then you can also, take care of it this evening. It's up to you.
Is there anyone? Ms. Grant?
Actually, I had a question on the drawings. There was a section in there that said to see the structural drawings for the foundation, and there was no information in the packet for that. So my only question would be is whether or not the foundation design meets the requirements for FEMA. So,
David, can you answer that?
I don't think I can answer that. In the end, when they come in for their building permit, obviously, they would have to have a compliant foundation for the flood zone that they are in.
I'm Joe Griffith. I'm the building official for the city of Milford, and again, I didn't realize Dave was about to say what he was going to just say, but that's exactly correct. When they come in for their building permit, we would be doing our review for, obviously, the foundation systems and all of their aspects of the building for compliance with our building code, which would include the FEMA regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Peg?
I just think it sets a dangerous precedent to just be approving things without having people here who are asking for them.
Okay. Anybody else have a question or comment? I think if one member's uncomfortable with proceeding, then I would ask that this go on to the next meeting's agenda and ask staff to inform the applicant that we request their presence.
Will do.
Thank you. Next order of business is old business, is that it's 0 and 990 Naugatuck Avenue, Zone HDD, petition of Jeffrey Gordon for a change of zone from HDD to WDD on map 40, block 300, lots 2 and 3B, of which Recycling Inc. is the owner. It was closed on January 15th, so there is no public hearing, and as we've done on previous meetings, the proposed zone change that follows Article 3, Section 313.2.3, special uses, 313.3, building requirements, and 313.4.3, accessory uses, multifamily dwellings in the WDD zone district, as proposed by Jeffrey Gordon as agent for applicant Primrose Companies Recycling Inc., etc. That was closed also on January 15th. We do have a vote deadline of March 21st. David, would you like to speak on this at all?
Really, the only thing to say is that there was a protest petition that was filed with the board. We have investigated that petition. It is a valid petition, and all that means is that for any motion to pass, you need 7 votes for that motion to pass.
Thank you. Is there any discussion that the board would like to have? Mr. Grant?
I just have a comment. Basically, we have 3 industrial zones left in the city. Our plan of conservation for this particular zone does really state that we should leave it open as an industrial zone, and I would like to actually see, instead of a residential, I'd like to see actually something that comes in and provides jobs. So I would say that we leave it as an industrial zone and not approve it to change to residential.
Anyone else have questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, just, I'd like to know are these all tied together, that if one does not happen, that the developer will then pull his whole application? Because I'm not necessarily in favor of some of the regulation changes. I'm just not comfortable with them.
Right.
I think we're setting a precedent that we may not want to do. And I'd just like to know if there is any thoughts on that.
David, do you have any ideas on how we can get that answer?
Sure. So you have two things you need to decide. You need to decide whether or not you're going to change the zone from HDD to WDD. That's one issue. And then the other issue is the proposed regulation changes themselves. That's the second issue. So the regulation changes have been proposed by the applicant. As with any application before the board, you can approve what they have submitted, you can deny what they have submitted, you can modify what they have submitted. So if there's something in the regulations you don't like, you can modify it because you are the body that creates the regulations.
Scott, please feel free just to discuss it with David to your satisfaction.
Yeah, no, I get the two items, but I'm wondering if, unless we're all in agreement on the regulations, do we need to address the zone change? If the regulations don't fit what the developer is thinking he needs to, and I understand the whole profit part of it, but if we don't do that, then should we even be looking at addressing a zone change?
You have two applications in front of you that you need to do something with. So if you disagree with anything and you aren't going to modify something, I mean, you still have to take an action. So the end result, you know, I couldn't tell you what the end result is. I mean, that's why I always get concerned about modifications on the fly. But, you know, if there's something in here that is simple, whatever that is, in the end, the developer will have to look at it and weigh it and say, well, you know, I didn't get this, but, you know, I got this. You know, is the project still viable? You know, we don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, and that's understood. I guess maybe the root of my question is if we change the regulations, even if we agree on them as a board, and we change the zone, if the developer doesn't agree with the regulation changes, the zone is still changed.
Correct.
I guess that's what I'm asking the board.
Yeah, so I think that that's a good question and a good thing for us to all be thinking about and look at the impact without respect to this particular development, because it could very well be the case that for whatever reason something happens and it's not built. So then is the regulation, the new language, something that we like? And if not, then I think we say no. And then separately, if we can come to some language that we agree on, then we could go with the, you know, the site-specific zone or the zone change itself, so that it will accommodate the development. You know, one thing that I'd like to echo is that we've come to a lot of hearings where people come out, and lots of people come out, and they're almost always against a particular project. This case is different. A lot of people came out, and they're for this because it helps them. I think it's a good use for the land. I think personally that our waterfront property should be developed to encourage residential and recreational use. And I think, you know, with the DEEP letter that we all have received, there is some concern about making sure that there is a recreational use that is actually robust and viable, as is consistent with our plan of conservation and development. I think it's a great waste to have riverfront property and have a factory on it. There's plenty of places for job creation that are less desirable in terms of the recreational use and the residential enjoyment of that space. So personally, I'm for it. I think that we do have concerns, and if anyone feels they want more time, I know we have a new member. I don't know if he's had a chance to look at all the YouTube videos of the public hearings or not. And we are down one member. I'd really like to have a full 10-member commission fully able to do this, because we are asked for a higher standard, not because of the actual zone change itself or or of the language of the zone change. It's just because we have Devon Power Plant who has more than a 20% stake in the perimeter. So that's, you know, if there was 20% and they were all individuals, I would give that more weight. But because it's just a public entity or a semi-public entity that hasn't really even explained why they're against it, they put us to a higher threshold to pass it. So I'd actually like to wait until we have a full board and we have our new member to have had a chance to fully make himself familiar with the ins and outs. So I don't know. Does anyone have any comment on my position?
Mr. Chairman, I don't disagree that it would be good to have a full board. I guess from my standpoint, we're basing regulation changes for this, we're basing our decision on a specific project that may or may not happen. We don't know if it's going to happen. We would like it to happen, but the changes that we're making go further than just that. So 60-foot height, I'm a little concerned. I mean, okay, maybe there's not a ton of areas that would apply to, but we're changing it for an HDD district, and that will mean that anywhere in an HDD district, should a developer want to come in and put a 60-foot building up, he can do that per our regulations. The only thing I see that is an exception is the density.
Just for clarification, it's the height of the WDD, not the HDD.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Okay.
yes, but still we're changing that. So, and I know that we can't spot zone, so that's where we have this difficulty, because on paper, the one project, if we were basing these regulations just, and it was only limited to here, it was never gonna happen anywhere else, I just see that we're setting a precedent that we may not
I agree.
want.
No, that's the question we're being asked to vote on, for sure. I mean, it'd be nice if we could have, I didn't think of it before, but if we could get a zoning map up on the screens to see where else, if anywhere else, this waterfront design district is and where it will be impacted.
Okay, your public hearing is closed. You have all the information to judge.
No, I know,
what's
but I mean, the
going
thing is, if somebody brought a map, we could look at it.
The public hearing is
Not for the public, just for us.
Mr. Chair, you cannot put new information into the record.
I'm not asking that. That's not what I'm asking.
I understand what you're asking
Okay,
for.
so what I would say then, with that speed bump.
I can tell you, I'm your staff, I could tell you that there are 3 areas where the WDD is located. The area that's in question, because this is all discussed at the public hearing, so I'm not telling you anything new. North of this, Baldwin Station is WDD. And then down on Devon, the area north of Walnut Beach, you have a large housing complex down there that's all WDD. And I believe in your packets, you will find information that was distributed to you, actually by the applicant, that actually showed those areas where they are, to be more specific.
So that really, I think, Mr. Marlowe does identify, what the far-reaching aspect of the language change in the WDD. So, but without anybody against it, I would like to push this down to the next meeting. Hopefully, we'll have a full board. If people want to, look at their own zoning map to get a visual image of where these other impacted zones are, then that would probably inform them of what the implications of the zone change are. And then specifically after that is whether you want to, the language change, and then after that you figure if you want a zone change, which will be, which is what the applicant is looking for.
Mr. Kush, through you to David, just maybe to better, so I understand better, where the building area going from 30% to 100%, could you better explain what that really means?
if you look at the current regulations, you're limited to how much building and how much pavement you can have on the site. They're proposing it would be a combination of building and pavement that for all intents and purposes, is almost 100%. So that's the difference. Again, keep in mind that that's just what they're proposing in the regulation. They have not submitted an actual site plan to the board for approval, so the end result might be something that's different. But in the renderings that they showed you as a concept, they had building footprints and parking that you saw took up most of the site.
Mr. Sadi.
Thank you very much, Chairman Quish. I agree that it should be put down put down to another date for hearing, but I think that the questions that we have are very important ones, but I think that just for a technical matter, if the board has concerns, we can talk to staff, and we're allowed to see the exhibits that are submitted for this hearing. You made a suggestion we could all look at our own maps. Maybe we can't do that, but we certainly can go to the board, the Planning and Zoning Board, and Mr. Salka, city engineer, and look at the materials that are in the record if we need to.
I mean, I can send.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I can send you, because we should have digitized, any of the materials that were sent to us, which, check your drop boxes, because I'm pretty sure that Mr. Gordon, submitted into the record a map showing where the WDDs were. If not, they were discussed, and I can, I'm sure, find a map just to show you where they are and provide that to you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, then we'll have this on the agenda for next meeting. Thank you. There are no public hearings tonight, and liaison reports. Any reports? Seeing none, Regulation Subcommittee. Mr. Grant?
We have
Oh,
a
I'm sorry.
meeting this,
You cannot speak.
for our general meeting, and we will be, next board meeting, we'll be making some suggestions to the board for some regulation changes to be passed on to the different city and state agencies.
Thank you. Next item of business is approval of minutes. Do we have a motion?
I'm going to move that we approve the minutes.
Mr. Grant, second.
For 1/15/19.
Second? Who seconded? Oh, it's got, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Abstain? Abstain, okay. Mr. Cater will abstain, I believe. Chair's report, I have none. Staff report.
Hopefully, you had distributed to you this evening the brochure for the next big planning and zoning training that is held by the Connecticut Bar Association. It'll be in March. I believe it's March 23rd in Middletown. Once again, it's an all-day event. It's really, really good. It's very informative, and if you go to it, we will reimburse you. So I again highly recommend that any new board members and us older board members really take advantage of this opportunity, because I think you'll find it helpful.
Great. I did go actually to one a few years ago, and it was at Wesley, and it was very well done, and I did learn quite a bit. And so I would say it's a good thing to do. And after that, we just have adjournment. Do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor? We're done.